Disclaimer, this is nothing more than a video where I go on an unscripted rant about my feelings on the Steam Deck. If you're here for a more in-depth review, you're not gonna find that here. With that being said, enjoy the video. Someone from Steam had to verify this. So let's go back in time to 2012, okay? Portal 2 has just released, and it is one of the most phenomenal games that I've ever played, quite frankly. Now, I want you to think, if you're Valve, what do you do next? Do you release a sequel to one of your 3 critically acclaimed video game series? No. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to go dormant for years and benefit off Steam solely. And it continued like this for years. Obviously, of course, we had Counter-Strike, Team Fortress 2, Dota somewhere in there. I'm not a Dota guy, I'm sorry. But in terms of content, Valve went kind of dark, doing little more than supporting Counter-Strike with updates and neglecting Team Fortress 2. That is until around 2018, I believe, or maybe 19, I'm not too positive, honestly. They released the Valve Index, which is a pretty cool piece of hardware. However, it is so expensive that I will never own it. Then, not too shortly after that, they did the unthinkable. They made a funny looking case. Nope, in 2020, the year of quarantine, Valve decided to drop one of my favorite pieces of modern day gaming technology. Before we get started about discussing this thing, I just want to bring this up. Do you guys remember when the Steam Deck came out and Valve did this whole thing where Gabe Newell himself went out to hand them out? That is like my favorite video ever. What do you get when you unknowingly record introverts? That video. It's amazing, okay?
Hi.
Hi.
Are you Danny?
I am. I can see that you are Gabe Newell.
Here's your deck.
Wow. I was not expecting to see you.
You know, in their defense, I also don't know what I'd do if Gabe Newell himself gave me this. The Steam Deck is Valve's introduction to the handheld gaming market, and I've gotta say, for a first attempt, this thing is phenomenal. It's also very old, so I don't know why I'm going through all this detail. Yeah, the Steam Deck kinda just came out of nowhere. I feel like I just kinda woke up one day and I saw all the tech reviewers talking about this. Now, it's something that's been on my radar for years, primarily because, listen, even though I'm a joyless adult now, the concept of taking console-quality games and playing them on the go wherever I want is, and will forever be, an amazing concept. Part of the reason why I like the Switch as much as I do, although the Switch has a few of its own issues. For example, it's a 360, okay? Nintendo has been making developers develop video games on 360s since 2017. It's 2024. That thing still gets games, okay? It's kind of crazy. Tangent over, but Nintendo, please, release the Switch 2. I need it. Yes, the Nintendo Switch was the only other real competitor for console-quality games on the go market around that time, and its hardware is pretty lacking. For God's sakes, it can't even run Pokemon. If one of your biggest series of all time cannot run properly on your hardware, I think it's time for a change. Luckily, the Steam Deck, though, has no such constraints. Okay, actually, that's not true. This thing can't run anything. It does have a hardware cap. However, it can run the vast majority of my games personally. However, being the kind of gamer I am, I tend to primarily play games from a few generations back, if you can't tell by Fallout New Vegas being one of my most played games recently. Yeah, I ended up picking up one of these babies during Valve's flash sale when they released the new model, which is the OLED. All it really does is it has a better battery, better screen, so I didn't need all that. What I did need, though, is this thing for oh god, didn't need to do that. Is this thing for only $340. That was amazing. And this is actually the, I believe the second or third tier of LCD Steam Decks. It has the higher memory and it came with the case, although I think all of them come with the case, which, by the way, if you make a handheld, start giving them cases by default. This thing is so good, I could not imagine carrying this thing around without the case, which is unfortunately what I do have to do with my Switch. So yeah, I bought this thing a good couple months ago, and I've been loving the absolute hell of it. I don't really know how we're gonna format this video now that we're kind of done the introduction stage, but as always, I hope you guys like listening to me talk about why I like this funny looking thing.
I don't know what that was. You gotta forgive me, it's a little bit late.
But yeah, this purchase has actually allowed me to really dive into my Steam library in a manner that I haven't done in quite a bit. You know, for all intents and purposes, I am a console player. I do own a gaming PC finally, but for the longest time, I owned nothing near powerful enough to run these games. Because of that, most of my library kind of sat dormant. I mean, I would play them occasionally on PC, but for all intents and purposes, when I want to play a game, I play it over there on my TV. But with the Steam Deck, I was able to take all of these phenomenal games on the go with me. Right now, I'm currently going through Fallout New Vegas, and it runs very well on here. Although, it does crash a lot. Granted, I'm not sure if that's more of New Vegas's fault, or if that's more of the Steam Deck's fault. And clearly, I'm not the only one who thinks so. This bad boy has gone on to sell over 1 million units. I actually don't know how many it sold. So I'll put it on screen right now, but it sold a lot. It was a massive success for Valve. So much so that I'm honestly expecting them to release another variant of this a couple years down the line, maybe. You know, big hardware revision and all that. So today we're going to take a look at why people like this thing. I'm going to play a couple games to really hammer in the fact that this thing is awesome. Talk about some of my downsides with it. And maybe, just maybe, we're going to talk about some other things you can do, such as getting many different emulators to run on this bad boy. You ever wanted to play Persona? You could play Persona on this thing. We're playing SpiderMan. SpiderMan PS4. One of the most graphically intensive games on that system. Anytime I played SpiderMan PS4 on my PS4, it sounded like it was about to explode. And look at this, guys. SpiderMan PS4 running just as well as it did on its console in a handheld format. It's amazing. Now, obviously, you can play Spider-Man Remastered on PC at much higher graphic qualities and much better frame rates. You're actually able to do that on the Steam Deck as well, although I find that having an uncapped frame rate on this game is a little bit unstable. It doesn't hold a 60 FPS. It kind of drifts all over the place. I don't like it, so I much prefer lowering it to 30 FPS. Which, thanks to Valve's built-in SteamOS, you can do that very easy. As you can see right here, we're in the Performance tab. I can set the frame to whatever I want. Right now it's at 30, and it's gonna stay like that. Now, I actually wanted to show off this game for a number of reasons. First off, I feel like the wow factor... I feel like the wow factor of running this game at a smooth frame rate in this little of a device is pretty impressive. But also, it shows off a couple things. First off... Let's just pause that real quick. First off, the Steam Deck's the Steam Deck's shape is one of the most comfortable handhelds I've ever held. I don't know about you guys, but whenever I'm playing my 3DS, my Vita, N-Gage, you know, my hands always cramp up. I don't know if that's specific to me because I am slightly paralyzed in my right thumb. I can't maneuver it quite as well as I would want. But otherwise, yeah, my hands get pretty cramped up in that tight, confined space. The Steam Deck, however, is quite hefty, and it's got these little divots, which perfectly mimic the sensation of holding a controller, which, you know, you can probably guess, feels pretty nice to me. So yeah, this is 100%, in my opinion, the most comfortable handheld I own currently. But also, to show off the fact that after you play for a little bit, the Steam Deck gets kind of loud with its fans. It's got fans up front right here and on the bottom. Oh, not on the bottom, and on the back right here. So, when you're playing a graphically intensive game, these fans up here can get pretty loud, and depending on the duration of your gaming session, they can get pretty hot. Nothing too bad, and as long as you're just holding on to the handles, you won't really notice it, but so much as like tap the back after like an hour of playing this game, you will feel the burning sensation. But yeah, as you can see, the game runs great, and I would love to see the Switch try to run this. It'd probably fucking explode.
No, it's just me, Gabe Newell.
Yeah, and we really got portable GTA 5 before we got Grand Theft Auto 6. I can't believe it's really taken me this long to realize I haven't mentioned this yet, but another defining feature about the Steam Deck are these touchpads on the sides. Now, these allow you to mimic the sensation of a mouse cursor with these little, little pads. If you've ever used a trackpad on a laptop, you kind of know what to expect here. They're nice, and they open up the playing field when it comes to video games that don't support the typical controller layout, like a gamepad. But, yeah, I only really use these during desktop mode. Let's get that radio off. As you can see, you can still move the camera around as such. You can even... oh. Now, I know for many of you, this might not be that impressive, but fuck it, okay? I do not care if this game came out in 2013, okay? Being able to play Grand Theft Auto 5 on the go is a long time coming for childhood me. If you showed me this in 2013, I would have absolutely lost my mind. I also would have expected another Grand Theft Auto game by now. And unlike SpiderMan PS4, I'm actually running this at a higher frame rate than you'll see on most modern consoles. Hell, even with modern systems, the game still apparently struggles to reach 60. Which is kinda crazy. Kinda crazy. And as you can see, no flaws, the game looks nice, and it's running great. This is epic. Let's see what Franklin's doing. Franklin, I can't really see the middle of my screen because my tripod kind of holds my phone in. Oh, that's where you were, Frank. I think it's time to move on. But yeah, as you just saw, 2 games I would never have imagined playing on the go, running perfectly fine on a handheld. It's absolutely incredible. Now, I don't want to give you guys the wrong impression, okay? The Steam Deck is not perfect. For one, its battery life, as you can probably guess, is horrible, okay? If you're playing a graphically intensive game, you're looking at about 4 to 3 hours. So, for example, if I was playing SpiderMan PS4, yeah, that wouldn't last very long. And that actually is a pretty deep blow for a handheld system. Granted, if you're an adult, you're probably not going to have too much free time for a gaming session longer than like half an hour while, working, so. I don't find it that big of an issue, but I can definitely see why it's a massive problem. Another thing is, the Steam Deck can be very buggy, surprisingly. You wouldn't expect it, but I've run into tons of issues with this thing. For one, sometimes the thing just won't turn on. Sometimes these menus get horribly laggy, the games won't start for whatever reason, even though they've ran perfectly for me before. My settings will sometimes reset. Like, sometimes I'll remap my controls for, say, GTA 5 or SpiderMan PS4 or Fallout, and then when I reload the game, they're gone. And I did this through SteamOS, which you guys can see right here. Yeah, I would change them through this setting, and sometimes they'd reset. I don't know if anyone else has ever had that issue, but it happens to me a lot. Sometimes the Steam Deck will just freeze, like anything. It just this, that's it. Most recently, for literally no reason at all, for like a week, I could not play my Steam Deck because while it was downloading a software update, my joysticks would glitch out and just be constantly doing this. It would be doing this, except I wouldn't be touching it. Yeah, I'm not sure. However, Valve is pretty good at releasing hotfixes to, put a band-aid on some of these issues. And overall, I would still say the fun I've had with this thing makes it worth it. It makes it worth fighting through some of the bugs. And this thing is still supported. Big name titles in 2024, such as Persona 3 Reloaded, Dragon's Dogma 2, they are all capable of running on this thing. Sometimes not perfectly, but they will run. Speaking of running, the Steam Deck can do a bit more than just play games, although let's be real here, that is the primary use. all you gotta do is hold down the power button right here, and suddenly we can switch it into a desktop. Boom, look at that. Here we are on the Steam Deck's home screen. And we are just a little PC. Woo, little PC. And we can do pretty much everything you can do on a normal PC. We can load up Google Chrome. And using this virtual keyboard, we can even look up pictures of carrot cake. Okay, I tried spelling that without directly looking at what I was typing. I can't tell if you guys can tell. That's not carrot. In all seriousness, you can use desktop mode to do pretty much everything you could do on a normal PC. And because of that, we can very easily load this bad boy up with ROMs and emulators. And that is where EmuDeck comes in handy. Now, if you couldn't tell through this horrible ramble of a video, I'm not here to give you instructions on how to install EmuDeck and how to set it up. However, I will vouch for the fact it is very easy and shouldn't take you longer than, say, 20 minutes, give or take. But with this wonderful thing, we have a whole multitude of emulators to play with. And best of all, we can actually reach them through the normal gaming mode on the Steam Deck. If we just head on over to non-Steam games as I showcased earlier, boom, we got a whole bunch of ROMs and emulators. Got a pretty good, I've got a pretty good splattering of titles on various different systems. PS2, PS1, Game Boy Advance, PSP, the works, okay? And obviously, running anything from NES to, Super Nintendo is very easy. iPhones can do that. Now, what's not as easy, however, is emulating PlayStation 2 games. And thankfully, this thing is fully capable of it, and it is great. Look at this, we are emulating PS2. Now, it's not perfect, but for the most part, it plays just as well as it did on console. I forgot how to play. And as you guys can see, I'm playing Red Dead Revolver, which, for those of you who don't know, is the predecessor, which would eventually, which would eventually lead us to Red Dead Redemption, one of the best gaming franchises of all time. Jesus Christ. Now, the emulation quality is very good on PS2 and GameCube. However, when you reach above that, it gets a little bit more spotty. Xbox emulation, for one, is pretty much unplayable on the Steam Deck from what I've seen. Granted, I haven't tried that firsthand, but Xbox emulation has always been a bit problematic. Also, PS3 emulation is very choppy. You can pretty much play only basic sports games. And in a weird twist of events, despite, the Steam Deck being incapable of, for the most part, playing 360 and PS3 games well, it's actually really good at playing Switch games. If you don't believe me, look it up. I don't have any Switch ROMs on my Steam Deck personally because the Switch is a currently releasing platform and I don't like to emulate for things like that. But it is pretty impressive, all things considered. I'm not sure why it works like that. I've also seen people use this as a very effective... My LED lights just turned off. I'm going to die. Anyway, I've seen people use the Steam Deck as a very effective Wii U emulator, weirdly enough. With the Steam Deck acting as the gamepad and the TV, or monitor, whatever you're using to hook up to. You use that as a TV and boom, Wii U. This was probably my worst video I've made so far, in terms of the rambling scale. But thank you for sitting through it. At the end of the day, I'm just going to say this right now, the Steam Deck is one of my favorite purchases I've made this year. The Wii has been dethroned. I get to experience so many of these wonderful games that I would have never imagined being able to play in the palm of my hand. I get to play them in the palm of my hand, and it's great. It really shows you how far we've come as both an industry and how dedicated gamers are to watch pixels die. So what do you guys think about the Steam Deck? Do you like it? Do you prefer its competitors? Do you think it sucks? Let me know in the comments down below. I've been JustinDG. Here's a picture of Gabe Newell, and I'll see you all next time. Peace.